So the first thing to think about is your team, and this could be agency staff or your own team. Now, many places will already have procedures in place for dealing with people who are sick, but these now need to include COVID-19. Essentially, if someone's sick or a person in their household is sick, they now need to self-isolate for 14 days before coming back to work. Another key thing to think about is Legionella. So where you have pipework that's just been sat there for a while with water in it, there's a chance that it might have built up Legionella bacteria. Now, there's a couple of ways to fix this. One way is you get a contractor and they'll come and flush and disinfect it for you. The other way is you could gently flush it yourself with cold and hot water and then test it yourself. But if you're doing that, you need to make sure you follow proper guidance on it. Next up, social distancing, which is really about preventing the spread of infection. So things to consider are zoning of the business to try and keep people 2 meters apart. It's considering the flow of people into the business. And it's also thinking about things that we pass between us and how we clean them in between use. So, for example, it's good practice to move away from cash and use card machines, but we just need to think, well, how are we going to clean it in between pressing the buttons? Number one thing for me, though, is hand washing. Hand washing is one of the most important things in preventing the spread of infection. So you're going to need way more soap and paper towel and all that than you ever needed before. And the general advice from EHOs is not really about gloves and masks, because they are for when you're in really close proximity with somebody. And so the problem with gloves, obviously, is that when people wear gloves, they tend to touch absolutely everything. They touch the sides, they touch their face, and that actually is more likely to spread infection than limit infection. So, hand washing. You're definitely going to want to clean your business because everything's been gathering dust for several weeks. It might be exposed to pests, so a deep clean's needed. But it's important not to forget things like ice machines or beer line cleaning as part of that. But you'll also want to introduce some new cleaning regimes. So, for example, it's good practice to clean hand touch points every 20 to 30 minutes. You just got to remember that if you introduce any of these new schemes, you've got to tell the team about them. Otherwise, they're just not going to do them. And then there's the food to think about. So suppliers would have had issues during lockdown as well, which means that they might have substituted some products. They might have stored a particular product in a different way. They might have frozen it to try and make it last through lockdown. These are all things you need to find out as a business and make sure they're communicated to the team. Lots of reasons for this. Shelf life's going to be affected. It may be that they've substituted a product which is totally different from a trading standards perspective. And also allergen information might be totally different. And that might mean that your allergen information is therefore incorrect because they've sent you a different product. All things you really need to check.